Imagine scrolling through your feed at 2 in the morning, the blue light of your phone the only thing illuminating your room. You're looking for a distraction, a reason to sleep, or maybe just a bit of mindless entertainment. Then, you see a thumbnail that stops your heart. It's a room you recognize. The posters on the wall, the specific way the sunlight hits the desk, the stuffed elephant on the shelf. It's your room, but you aren't in the video. Instead, it's your ex-girlfriend, and she's with someone else. They are in your bed, under your sheets, and the other girl is wearing the one thing you told your ex was off-limits, your mother's vintage Aaliyah shirt. The last gift she gave you before cancer took her away. That was the moment Phoenix Adme, most people call me Nyx, decided that being the bigger person was an outdated concept. I wasn't just heartbroken, I was violated, and I knew exactly how to burn her world down. I just didn't expect to fall in love with the girl holding the matches. Let's back up for a second, because I know how this looks. It looks messy, it looks chaotic. But let me tell you about Bria Marchetti. We dated for 10 months, and for 10 months, I was a ghost in her machine. Bria had 50,000 Instagram followers, and she treated our relationship like a long-form marketing campaign. Every dinner was a photo op, every kiss was staged for the perfect lighting. But there was a catch. I was never aesthetic enough for her main feed. If we took a photo, I was the one cropped out. I was the hand holding the glass, the blurry shoulder in the background, the person behind the camera making sure her candid laugh looked just right. She said she wanted to keep us private, but in reality, she was keeping me hidden. I stayed because I'm the kind of girl who falls hard and fast. I'm a poet, a dreamer, someone who thinks that if I just love someone enough, they'll finally see me. I learned her complicated Starbucks orders. I sat through boring influencer parties where her friends ignored me, and I wrote her poems she probably never read. Then came the 4 words that ruin lives. We need to talk. She broke up with me in a coffee shop. Not just any coffee shop, one with perfect natural lighting. She had a ring light set up on the table. She literally filmed the breakup for a vulnerability vlog. Sometimes we outgrow people, she told the camera, dabbing at a fake tear while I sat across from her, my world collapsing. 2 weeks later, she was Instagram official with Madison Pierce. Madison was everything I wasn't, blonde, perfect, 30,000 followers, and most importantly, she fit Bria's grid. They were doing all the couple content I'd begged for, matching outfits, weekend getaways, TikTok dances. It was a knife to the chest every time I refreshed my app. But the video was the final straw. Bria still had the spare key to my dad's house. I'm 22, saving for my own place, so I still live in my childhood bedroom. She knew my dad was at work. She broke in, took Madison to my bed, and filmed a spicy video for her stories. The caption read, "New memories in new places. #upgrade complete." And Madison was wearing my mom's shirt. Rage isn't a strong enough word. It was a cold, vibrating fury that settled in my bones. I called Bria, my hands shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. She answered, giggling. "Oh, hey, Nyx, what's up?" "Are you out of your mind?" I hissed. "You broke into my house, Bria. You were in my bed, and she's wearing my mother's shirt. Do you have any idea how sick that is?" "Relax," she said, her voice dripping with that casual influencer condescension. "I had a key. It's not that serious. It's just content, Nyx. Honestly, you're always so dramatic. Besides, your room has great lighting. It was a business decision." A business decision. My grief, my childhood, my mother's memory. It was all just an aesthetic choice for her. I hung up and sat in the dark for an hour. I didn't cry. I was past crying. I wanted to destroy her. Not just her heart, but the things she loved most. Her brand, her image, her ego. That's when I called Amara, my best friend and the patron saint of chaotic energy. "She did what?" Amara screamed through the phone. "I'm coming over. We are keying the car. We are posting the receipts. I have a cousin who can hack her account." "No," I said, my voice eerily calm. "I want to do something bigger. I want to hit her where it hurts, publicly, at Castellanos." Castellanos was Bria's family's high-end Italian restaurant. Every Sunday, they had a jazz brunch. It was the social event of the week for the influencer crowd. Bria was always there, holding court at the center table, showing off her life. "I'm going to make a scene," I told Amara, "but I need a partner, someone who will really make the knife twist." There was only one person who fit the bill. Devon. Devon was Bria's stepsister. They weren't blood related. Their parents married when they were 16, and they were polar opposites. Where Bria was polished and fake, Devon was raw and edgy. She was a photographer with a cult following for her moody, film-grain shots of abandoned buildings and street life. She was a stunning redhead with a face full of freckles and eyes that looked like they could see through a brick wall. And I knew for a fact that she couldn't stand Bria. When I went to Bria's place to get my stuff back a month ago, Devon had been the one to let me in. She'd looked at the Aaliyah shirt on the floor, then at me, and said, "You deserved better than her, you know." I found her Instagram. Devon shoots film. Her grid was a masterpiece of shadow and light. I sent her a DM. "Hey, it's Nix, Bria's ex. Can we talk? It's about making her regret everything." 3 hours later, she replied. "About what, exactly?" "Public humiliation and justice," I wrote back. A long pause. The little typing bubbles appeared and disappeared. Then, Brew Haven. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. The coffee shop was loud, but when Devon walked in, it felt like the volume turned down. She was wearing vintage Levi's, an oversized blazer, and a heavy film camera was slung around her neck. Her red hair was messy in a way that looked deliberate and dangerous. She didn't smile. She just sat down, ordered a black coffee, and looked at me. "Show me the video," she said. I pulled out my phone and played it. I watched her jaw clench as she saw the room, then the shirt. "That's your mom's shirt," she said quietly. "You told me that was the last thing she gave you." The fact that she remembered that detail from a 30-second interaction a month ago made something tight in my chest loosen. "I want revenge," I said. "Public, humiliating revenge. This Sunday at brunch." "Keep talking," Devon murmured, leaning back, her green eyes locked on mine. "I'm going to walk in, take the mic from the band, and expose her. And then I'm going to kiss you. In front of her. In front of everyone." Devon's eyebrows shot up. A small, slow smirk spread across her face. "You want to kiss me? For revenge?" "To destroy her ego," I said, my face heating up. "Bria hates that you don't worship her. She hates that you're the one person she can't control. Seeing her uncool ex with her cool stepsister, it would kill her." Devon studied me for a long moment. I felt like a bug under a microscope. She wasn't just looking at me, she was analyzing me. "We aren't blood related," she said. "I barely claim her. But what's in it for me? I don't do things just for satisfaction." "What do you want?" I asked. "I'm applying to a prestigious photography program in New York," she said, tapping her camera. "I need a portfolio that shows raw human emotion, real moments, not the filtered garbage Bria posts. You help me build that. Be my subject for the next week, and I'll help you with your revenge." "So, we spend time together?" "A lot of time," Devon said, her voice dropping a register. "Photo shoots, late nights, experimental stuff. And if we're going to do this kiss on Sunday, it has to look real. Convincing. Can you handle that, Phoenix?" Her use of my full name sent a jolt of electricity down my spine. Her eyes were intense, challenging me. "I can handle it," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Good." She extended a hand. Her skin was warm, her grip firm. When our palms met, there was a literal spark. Static, maybe, but it felt like a warning. "How good of a kisser are you, anyway?" she asked casually as we stood to leave. I choked on my breath. "Excuse me? If we're selling this, it needs to be an 11 out of 10, she said, a playful glint in her eyes. "Needs to look like you've been wanting to tear my clothes off for months." I'm good," I stammered. "No complaints. Confident. I like that." She grinned, a single dimple appearing in her left cheek. "Guess I'll find out soon enough. By the way, Nix." "Yeah?" "Bria was an idiot for cropping you out. You're way too beautiful to be in the background." She walked away before I could respond, leaving me standing in the middle of a crowded coffee shop with my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. The next week was a whirlwind of lens flares and late nights. Devon didn't just take pictures. She curated moods. She was a different person behind the camera. Commanding, intense, almost predatory in her focus. "Tilt your chin down," she'd murmur, her voice a low hum in the quiet of an abandoned warehouse we'd broken into. Now look at me like you're keeping a secret, like you want to tell me, but you're waiting for me to beg. I did what she told me. I couldn't help it. There was something about the way she looked at me through the viewfinder, and then the way she looked at me over the top of it. It wasn't the way Bria looked at me. Bria looked at me like I was a prop that needed to be moved 6 inches to the left. Devon looked at me like I was the only source of light in a dark room. We shot everywhere. Rooftops at sunset where the wind whipped my hair into my face, neon-lit diners at 3 a.m. where the red light made her freckles look like stars. One night, after a particularly long shoot on the docks, we sat on the hood of her beat-up Honda, sharing a bag of tacos. The air was salty and cool, and the city lights reflected in the black water. "Can I ask you something?" Devon asked, picking at a taco. "Why did you stay with her so long? You're smart. You're passionate. Why let someone treat you like scraps?" I sighed, looking out at the water. I thought if I loved her hard enough, she'd eventually love me back the same way. I thought if I was perfect enough, I'd finally make it onto the main feed, you know? It sounds stupid when I say it out loud. "It's not stupid," Devon said softly. She shifted closer, her shoulder brushing mine. I was suddenly hyper-aware of her warmth, of the scent of her perfume, something like sandalwood and old film chemicals. "It's human, but you deserve someone who doesn't make you beg for a seat at the table, someone who builds the whole table for you." I looked at her, and the air between us suddenly felt heavy. The teasing, flirtatious energy was gone, replaced by something much more fragile. Her eyes searched mine, and for a second I thought she was going to kiss me then. I wanted her to. I wanted to know if her lips felt as intense as her gaze, but she looked away, back at the stars. "We should get some sleep," she said, her voice a bit rough. "Big day tomorrow." We texted constantly that week. It started with planning the strike, but it quickly devolved into memes, random thoughts, and "this reminded me of you" photos. On Thursday night, she called me at 2 a.m. "Are you sleeping?" Her voice was a whisper. "I am now," I teased. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. I've just been editing our photos." "Nix. They're incredible. You're so photogenic, it's actually annoying." I smiled into my pillow. "You woke me up to tell me I'm annoying?" "I woke you up to say thank you. This portfolio, it's going to get me into that program. I can feel it." There was a long silence on the line. I could hear her breathing, slow and steady. "Are you nervous about Sunday?" I asked. "Terrified," she admitted. "Really? You seem fearless." "It's an act," she said softly. "I'm terrified I'm going to like kissing you too much. And then what? We go back to being strangers?" My heart stopped. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't know what to say. "Devon, get some sleep, Nix," she said, her voice returning to its usual cool tone. "See you Sunday." She hung up, and I didn't sleep another wink. Sunday morning arrived with a vengeance. I threw up twice from nerves. Amara came over and basically acted as my hype woman/glam squad. She picked out my outfit: black leather pants, a cropped white tank top, gold jewelry, and my hair in a high puff with edges laid to perfection. "You look devastating," Amara approved, checking my reflection. "Walk in there, kiss the hot photographer, and become a legend." At 11:15 a.m., I pulled up to Castellanos. It was a beautiful restaurant. String lights, a packed patio, and a jazz trio playing a smooth, upbeat set. I saw the influencer crowd in their sundresses and linen suits, phones out, recording their mimosas. My phone buzzed. Back corner, red blazer. "Ready when you are." I spotted Devon. She looked incredible. The red blazer matched her hair, and she had her camera on the table looking bored. When our eyes met, she gave me a small, sharp nod. I walked straight to the jazz band. The pianist looked at me, confused, but I just smiled and reached for the mic. "Can I borrow this for a second? It's important," I said. He handed it over. I turned to the crowd. The restaurant went quiet. Every head turned. I saw Bria at the center table. She was laughing at something Madison said, but when she heard my voice over the speakers, her head snapped up. "Sorry to interrupt the brunch," I said into the mic, my voice echoing off the stone walls. "But I have a public service announcement. Bria's face went from confusion to recognition to pure panic. 3 weeks ago, I continued, my voice steady, my ex-girlfriend posted a video on Instagram of her and her new girlfriend having sex in my childhood bedroom. In my bed, while the new girl wore my deceased mother's shirt. Gasps rippled through the patio. Mimosas were lowered. Phones were pointed at me. Bria went deathly pale. Madison looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. When I confronted her, I said, walking slowly toward the back of the restaurant, she told me it was just content. She told me I was being dramatic. She told me it was a business decision. I was feet away from Devon now. She stood up, her green eyes burning with a challenge. So, I realized something, I said, my voice dropping but still carrying through the silence. I've wasted too much energy on someone who treated me like I was disposable. I should have been paying attention to someone who actually sees me. I was standing right in front of Devon. I could see the pulse jumping in her neck. I could smell that sandalwood and film scent. This is me choosing better, I said. I handed the mic back to a stunned waiter and grabbed Devon by the lapels of her red blazer. I pulled her toward me, and she didn't resist. She met me halfway. The kiss was supposed to be a stunt. It was supposed to be for show. But the moment our lips touched, the entire world vanished. Her lips were soft, tasting of cherry lip gloss and black coffee. But it was the intensity behind it that floored me. She didn't just kiss me, she claimed me. Her hands slid into my hair, her fingers tangling at the nape of my neck, pulling me closer until there was no space left between us. My hands found her waist, gripping the fabric of her blazer as my head spun. It wasn't a revenge kiss. It was an I've been waiting for this all week kiss. People were cheering. Someone screamed. I could hear the frantic clicking of Bria's friends' cameras, but all I could feel was Devon's heart hammering against my chest, echoing mine. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathless. Devon's pupils were blown wide, her lips swollen. That felt real, she whispered, her voice trembling just a little. Yeah, I managed, my brain still short-circuited. It did. I looked over at Bria. She was standing up, her face a mottled red, her eyes bulging. You're a psycho, Bria shouted, her voice shrill. That's my sister! Stepsister, Devon called back, her arm sliding firmly around my waist. And for the record, Bria, she's a much better kisser than you. The restaurant erupted in laughter. Bria grabbed her designer bag, snatched Madison's arm, and stormed out, pursued by the very camera she usually loved. We did it, I whispered as Devon pulled me toward the back exit. We burst into the alleyway behind the restaurant, both of us doubled over with laughter and adrenaline. Holy, did you see her face? Devon gasped, leaning against the brick wall. That was iconic. You were incredible, Nix. She looked at me then, her expression softening. The adrenaline was fading, leaving something much deeper in its place. She stepped closer, invading my space until I was tucked between her and the wall. She reached out, her thumb brushing over my bottom lip, her gaze dropping to my mouth. The second kiss, she murmured. No cameras, no audience, just us. Devon. She didn't wait for me to finish. She leaned in, and this time, it was slow. It was deliberate. It was the kind of kiss that felt like a promise. Her hands were on my cheeks, her touch gentle but possessive. I melted into her, my hands finding the back of her neck, pulling her into me. When we finally separated, she rested her forehead against mine. What are we doing? I breathed. I don't know, she admitted, but I want to keep doing it. That wasn't just for show, Nix. Not even close. I've thought you were gorgeous since the first time Bria brought you over. I couldn't say anything. She didn't deserve you. Our phones started exploding in our pockets. We were viral. Someone had filmed the whole thing, and the Castellanos incident was trending. People were calling it the ultimate revenge. I checked Bria's Instagram. She had posted a long, rambling story about toxic exes and betrayal, but the comments were destroying her. Her follower count was dropping by the thousands. Devon's photography account, on the other hand, was blowing up. This is insane, Devon breathed, looking at her screen. Is it a good insane or a bad insane? I asked. She looked at me, her eyes soft and green. I don't care about the followers, Nix. I just care about whether that kiss meant something to you. Because if this was just about revenge for you, I don't think I can handle that. I reached out, interlacing my fingers with hers. It wasn't just revenge, Devon. Not by a long shot. After the restaurant, everything changed. The revenge had been sweet, but the aftermath was even sweeter. That night, we went back to Devon's place. Her parents were out, and we ordered pizza, real pizza, from a place that didn't have aesthetic lighting. We sat on the floor of her bedroom, surrounded by stacks of photos and old film canisters. "I need to show you something," she said, looking a little shy. She went to her closet and pulled out a canvas. It was a painting, not a photograph. It was me sitting in a kitchen, looking out a window. It was beautiful and melancholy, and she'd captured the exact expression I get when I'm lost in thought. "You painted this?" I asked, stunned. "A year ago," she admitted, "after a family dinner where Bria ignored you the whole night to talk to some brand manager. You ended up in the kitchen with me, and we talked about your mom. You told me how she loved Aaliyah. I went home and painted this from memory. I've had it in my closet ever since." "A year ago?" My heart raced. "Why didn't you say anything?" "You were with Bria," she said, shrugging. "I thought you'd never look at me that way, but when you came to get your stuff and I saw how much she'd hurt you, I wanted to fight her myself." I looked at the painting, then back at her. "Why me, though? I was just—" The girl Bria cropped out. "Because you're unapologetically yourself," Devon said, reaching out to tuck a stray hair behind my ear. Her touch was so light, but it made my skin tingle. "You're loud and passionate, and you love with your whole heart. Bria tried to dim that because she felt threatened by it. But I love it. I love the intensity." "You barely know me," I whispered. "I know you sing off key when you think no one's listening," she countered. "I know you're scared of heights, but you love rooftops. I know you text in all lowercase when you're tired, and I know you still sleep with that stuffed elephant your mom won you at the fair." "How do you know that?" "You posted it in a story once, a year ago. I've been paying attention, Nix." That night was our first real night together. No revenge, no cameras, no scripts, just us. It was messy and nervous and perfect. I remember the way her skin felt against mine, the way she whispered my name like it was a secret, and the way she held me afterward like she was afraid I'd disappear if she let go. The next few weeks were the honeymoon phase on steroids. We were an official couple, and we didn't hide it. We went to my DJ gigs at local clubs, and she'd stand in the front row taking photos of me while I worked the decks. I'd sit in on her darkroom sessions, watching her develop film in the red light, the air thick with the smell of chemicals and attraction. We posted each other constantly. Not for clout, not for content, but because we were actually happy. Then, the art program in New York reached out. They'd seen the viral video, but more importantly, they'd seen the portfolio Devon had submitted, the photos of me. They wanted an interview. "What if they think I'm just a viral girl?" Devon asked, pacing her room. "Then show them the work," I told her, grabbing her hands to stop her pacing. "Show them that you saw me when no one else did. Prove them wrong." She did, and 2 weeks later, she got in. Full scholarship. I cried harder than she did when she got the email. But then, the reality hit. New York was 3,000 miles away. I still had a year left of community college in California. "We'll make it work," she said, pulling me close. But I could hear the doubt in her voice. Long distance is a relationship killer. "Devon, what if we can't?" "I'm not Bria," she said firmly, cupping my face. Her green eyes were fierce. "I won't treat you like you're disposable. You're it for me, Nix. I've waited a year and a half for you. I'm not letting a few time zones change that." "How do you know?" "Because I've never felt like this before, and I'm willing to fight for it. Are you?" "I am," I whispered. The summer before she left was bittersweet. We went on road trips up the coast, stayed in cheap motels, and had endless photo shoots that inevitably turned into makeout sessions. She made me a photo book for my birthday, a physical one with handwritten captions. On the last page, she'd written, "You were supposed to be revenge. You ended up being everything." I sobbed for 20 minutes. Airport day was brutal. We sat in my car in the parking garage, neither of us wanting to be the first to move. "This isn't goodbye," she said, her voice cracking. "It's see you soon. 6 months until winter break. We'll FaceTime every day. I'll send you Polaroids." You'll be so busy, I said, my heart aching. New city, new people, amazing artists. Nix. She took my face in her hands. I love you. I am in love with you. Distance won't change that. It was the first time either of us had said the words. You love me? I whispered. So much it's actually ridiculous, she said, a tear escaping and running down her cheek. I'm supposed to be focusing on my career, but all I can think about is your laugh and the way you scrunch your nose when you're concentrating. You're my person. I love you too, I said, pulling her into a kiss that tasted like salt and desperation. We kissed until a security guard knocked on the window and told us we couldn't park there. Long distance was brutal. It was 3 a.m. phone calls because of the time difference. It was missed calls and falling asleep on FaceTime. It was hard days where I saw Bria posting about her perfect life, and I felt a pang of loneliness so sharp it felt like a physical wound. But then, I'd get a package in the mail, a roll of film Devon had developed with a note. Thought you'd like these. Or she'd send me flowers for no reason, or call me at 6 a.m. her time just to hear my voice before I went to bed. 3 months into her program, Bria reached out to me. It was a long apology DM. She'd lost a lot of followers after the Castellanos incident. Madison had dumped her after realizing Bria was only using her for couple content. She was in therapy. I was terrible to you, she wrote. I see that now. You didn't deserve it. I'm truly sorry for what I did to your mom's shirt. I showed the message to Devon on FaceTime that night. Are you going to respond? Devon asked, her face illuminated by the soft light of her Brooklyn apartment. I don't know, I said. Part of me wants to tell her off. Part of me just feels done. What do you want, Nix? I want to move on, I said. She's not worth the energy anymore. I blocked her, not out of anger, but for closure. I didn't need her apology. I had something much better. Winter break felt like breathing again. Seeing Devon walk through the arrivals gate at the airport was the highlight of my year. We were attached at the hip for 3 weeks. When she had to leave again, it still hurt, but it felt different. We'd survived the first stretch. We knew we could do it. A year later, I graduated from community college. Devon was there for the ceremony. She'd flown in secretly and surprised me at the graduation dinner. We spent the night celebrating, and the next morning, she sat me down. So, she said, biting her lip, I got a job, a permanent one, at a gallery in Dumbo. Dev, that's incredible. Yeah, but it's in New York, obviously. My heart sank. I knew this was coming. I know. And I was looking at apartments, she continued, her eyes sparkling. And I found one in Brooklyn. It's tiny. It smells a bit like old wood and expensive coffee, but it has great natural lighting. Devon, stop, I laughed. I'm happy for you, really. Wait, let me finish. I talked to the landlord, and I told him I'd be living there with my girlfriend, who just got accepted into a music production program at NYU. I froze. What? She pulled a letter out of her bag. It was an acceptance letter for me. I'd applied months ago, encouraged by Devon, but I never thought I'd actually get in. Surprise, she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. I tackled her onto the bed, screaming and crying. We're going to New York, I gasped. We're going to New York, she confirmed. Same city, same apartment. No more FaceTimes. So, here we are. We live in a tiny, overpriced apartment in Brooklyn. Devon's photos are hanging in galleries all over the city, and I'm producing music for indie artists. We have a cat named Chaos who likes to knock over Devon's film canisters. Sometimes people recognize us on the street. Hey, aren't you the girls from that viral revenge video? They'll ask, and we just look at each other and laugh. Because it started as a way to burn a bridge. It started as a stunt to hurt an ego. But in the end, it was the best decision I ever made. Bria thought she was cropping me out of the picture, but all she did was give me the chance to find the person who wanted to put me in the center of the frame. Sometimes chaos leads you exactly where you're meant to be. And for me, that was right here. In the arms of the girl who saw me when no one else would. Thank you for listening to this story on Bloom GL Stories. If you enjoyed this journey and the chemistry between our characters, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more immersive BL content. Your support means everything. See you in the next story.